All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores, and we're coming with two big topics today. Apparently, the Washington Commanders are behind the scenes saying that Jayden Daniels is everything that they hoped he'd be and more. We're going to dive into the comparisons to CJ Stroud. We're going to dive into a lot of other people even outside of the Commanders organization raving about Jayden Daniels so far in early off-season practices. And then in the other half of the video, we got to talk about how Adam Peters is cleaning house right now. This scouting department is starting to look very different. As you can notice, a couple of Emmanuel Forbes truthers are now gone. But we're also going to talk about some of the guys that he's bringing in, especially from previous relationships with guys from the 49ers scouting staff and things like that. So I'm going to keep y'all updated on all of the moves that's going on that Adam Peters has made since after the draft, especially in the scouting department, and who some of the people that he may be targeting that we haven't even hired yet. So we're going to dive into all of that and more. But before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm that subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I am still working on my record prediction and individual matchup breakdown. That video, again, is going to be like an hour long, going to be very detailed. I'm going to talk about matchups, advanced stats, the history of our matchups, home game, away game, who is like the going to be the most well rested going to the game. Like, did our opponent have a Thursday night game the previous week, so they had 10 days to prepare for us, where we've only had a normal 7? Well, I'm gonna break all of those different random factors and interesting angles down for each matchup when I do my breakdown. We're gonna go game by game with it, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And of course, I'm also working on film sessions for all of the draft picks and some notable undrafted free agents, so stay tuned for all of that leading up to training camp. I'm hoping I can go ahead and knock those film sessions out by training camp. We'll see though, and I really appreciate y'all. Instead of wasting more of y'all time, let's go and get to this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's start with the Jayden Daniels praise. Well, Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels has shown significant progress in rookie minicamp and OTAs per Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. He said, quote, "They're saying all of the right things publicly about how he studies, works hard, and all of that type of stuff. But when you talk to people in Washington privately, they say, we got ourselves a dude," unquote. And Fowler also added that Daniels is on track to becoming the starting quarterback. Of course, we can assume that if Jayden Daniels is not starting week 1, we have a major problem on our hands. Jayden Daniels starting week 1 is not news. Him not starting is. But there's also like a whole 30-second clip of Jeremy Fowler breaking all of that down on SportsCenter and all of the things that he's hearing about Jayden Daniels from behind the scenes and from the Commanders front office and coaching staff and things like that. But basically, in that 30-second clip, he continues on to say that the Commanders organization feels like finally, after the carousel spinning at this position for so many years, but there's talk about, hey, at rookie minicamp, the ball barely touched the ground, if at all, because of all of the completions. The quick arm release really stood out, and that's the exact quote from Jeremy Fowler in that clip. And then also, Logan Paulson loves himself some Jayden Daniels as well. It did not take long for Jayden Daniels to impress Logan Paulson just within the first day of rookie minicamps. And Logan Paulson has basically said that if anything, he's only gotten better since then. But going all the way back to the first day of rookie minicamps, Logan Paulson said this about Jayden Daniels, quote, "I've just been so blown away by Jayden Daniels' footwork." And he said this on the live broadcast on the Commanders.com's Command Center when they were at the practice. And he continued to say, "It's the first time I've seen him in person. His ability to run his feet, just comparing him to fellow rookie quarterback Sam Hartman, who is a very experienced player and a 5-year starter, one of the most prolific passers in the ACC. It's like they're playing different sports. His ability to get that to that top step, get the ball out accurately and on time, it makes me, it is kind of one of those things like you're always worried, oh man, he only threw go routes. He only threw hitches. Seeing the footwork like that, you're like, man, that projects to something nice, and the release is better than I thought. It's better than I thought after watching all of that film and watching his pro day." So, I mean, talking about a guy that's like, again, there's not a lot of evaluation to take from this, but seeing it live and living color for the first time is pretty cool. unquote. And AZ Sports continues on to say, sure, everyone loves the big throw on a rope down the field, or they love to see the perfectly touched place ball as it's dropping into a bucket, aka the receiver's breadbasket from 40 yards away. None of that happens without proper footwork, however, which is probably the second most important trait for a quarterback behind process and ability. Daniels comes out of the draft with solid mechanics as is. Many draft experts believe he had the best college tape out of the 2023 prospects, including Chicago Bears #1 overall pick, Caleb Williams out of USC. A big reason why was because of Jayden Daniels' mechanics and deep ball ability, again, both of which stem from footwork. But that's not it. Remember, CJ Stroud's best trait coming out of college was his footwork and mechanics and processing ability. So that's why some people think that Jayden Daniels can literally have the same exact impact as a rookie as CJ Stroud did last year. I mean, Dan Orlovsky said it. He said on the Pat McAfee show just 3 days ago, quote, watching Jayden Daniels was like watching CJ Stroud. CJ had a little bit more control of the line of scrimmage, and I think CJ throws people open more consistently, unquote. But basically, Dan Orlovsky is saying that Jayden Daniels can literally be a CJ Stroud. Again, maybe CJ Stroud had a little bit more control of the line of scrimmage. He knows how to throw people open a little bit more consistently, but Jayden Daniels is faster. So overall, they kind of amount to like the same value as a quarterback. And then Bucky Brooks also 4 days ago, he predicts that Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels will have a similar impact to his team like CJ Stroud did with the Texans last year as well. And that was on NFL Network. It's like a whole 56-second clip of him breaking down why he feels that way and things like that. And then you also have Kurt Benkert, who's a huge fan of Jayden Daniels. He just came out with a video, I think, was it earlier today or yesterday, saying that like the Commanders' future is really, it's like a 40-minute breakdown as to why like the Commanders are like that next great team, basically like the next Texans. If you want to go check that out, he's always been a huge supporter of Jayden Daniels throughout the entire draft process. He's been one of the very few people that would dare to say that Jayden Daniels was the #1 quarterback in this entire draft class, going all the way back to months ago. Even when people were saying that it was clearly Caleb Williams, then Drake May, and then Jayden Daniels third, back in those days, he was one of the very few people that was saying that, nah, Jayden Daniels, if anything, is actually #1 more than he is #3. And so he also went and tweeted all the way back on February 2nd as well, I just started watching Jayden Daniels' film. He throws with a narrow base and can generate a lot of power with a flick. He's not the same thrower that CJ Stroud is, but kind of in the same ability of being able to drive the ball without a huge hitch, all stemming from a narrow base. And Logan Paulson really broke that down on a recent podcast, because the Logan Paulson quote that I gave you earlier came from first day of rookie mini camps. Then later on, after a couple of OTAs practices just a couple of days ago, he really emphasized how much throwing from a narrow base is really beneficial to a quarterback. But continuing, going back to Kurt Benkert, not even going into the X factor he has with his feet, but as just a thrower just by itself, when it's good, it looks really good. I'll be pushing out breakdowns of all of these prospects after the Super Bowl. So again, this was back in February. And then again, like I already told you, just looking from the future, he already loved Jayden. After he finally watched the tape, he loved Jayden Daniels. Had him as his quarterback one going into the process. He even has a video with Baker Mayfield breaking down why Jayden Daniels was the perfect pick for the Washington Commanders soon after the draft. If you want to go check that out as well. And then even CJ Stroud himself said the same thing on his live draft stream with Micah Parsons. When we took Jayden Daniels, they were live streaming during the draft, and CJ Stroud said that Jayden Daniels is walking into a similar situation in Washington that he had in his rookie season. He feels like Dotson and Terry are so underrated as a duo, and Jayden Daniels is the right guy to get those guys the ball. So even CJ Stroud compares Jayden Daniels to CJ Stroud as far as what impact they can have as a rookie coming right out the gate and making the playoffs, winning the division, and things like that. I also like how, and this is kind of off topic a little bit, but speaking of that same live stream, when the Commanders took Jayden Daniels, I loved how stressed Michael Parsons looked in the stream. Like he was even explaining like out loud with words, like how stressful it's going to be having to go up against Jayden Daniels twice a year. He did not look happy. I mean, he was looking like he was ready to get traded to Washington so that he could play with Jayden Daniels rather than against him. But back to the main topic of being compared to CJ Stroud, just keeping it pushing. I also love how Jayden Daniels even addressed the comparisons to CJ Stroud in that Keyshawn Johnson interview that I really liked. It was like 50-something minutes. I saw some people didn't really like it. I loved it. I thought Keyshawn Johnson was a great interviewer, but maybe it's just a personality thing. I love those types of personalities. So I don't know. I felt like it was great trying to bait him, and Jayden Daniels wasn't going for any of the baits that he threw out there. I thought it was a great interview, me personally. But I don't know. I guess it's just a preference and personalities and styles and things like that. But either way, Jayden Daniels said that he literally wants to outdo CJ Stroud's rookie season. That's like a real goal of his. And he also took some interesting jabs at his close friend. And I want to emphasize that they are close friends. CJ Stroud and Jayden Daniels are very close. Just in case if y'all didn't know, they are both from the same area. They're both from the IE in California. And I love a lot of rappers out there. Like I got Spank Nitty, Duda, I got Good Mac, just to name a few. But back to my main point, they have known each other for a very long time. And they have supported each other, but also competed against each other for a while now. Bryce Young, you can throw him in there too, but Bryce Young is from Pasadena. And if you watch that Keyshawn Johnson interview, that was a really funny part of the interview because Keyshawn Johnson kept trying to say that, but isn't Bryce Young from the same area as y'all too? And Jayden was like, no, he's from the IE. Like, I mean, he's from Pasadena. That's completely different. And all of like, he kept like drawing the line like, yeah, Bryce Young, you're from Cali and all of that. You're from Southern California, but you're not from the IE like me and CJ Stroud. Like, he just kept emphasizing that. And I love that. Like, he was not playing. Keyshawn Johnson kept trying, like, you sure? I thought I heard Bryce Young say. Jayden was like, no, he's from Pasadena. Stop doing that type of thing. I love that. But also, going back to the CJ Stroud comparisons, he even pointed out in that Keyshawn Johnson interview that CJ Stroud had 2 Heisman nominations, but he didn't win one. And he said that he takes pride in the fact that he actually won a Heisman, and CJ Stroud never did. And now he wants to go into the NFL, even outdoing the rookie season that CJ Stroud had, and I love it. And then now back to the love that Jayden Daniels has been getting the past few days from behind the scenes. Louis Riddick tweeted out just as of 3 days ago, love how Jayden Daniels' new teammates speak about him already. So Louis Riddick is hearing a lot of great things behind the scenes as well from the player side. Like Jeremy Fowler was hearing from the Commanders front office and coaching staff side. And then you have Louis Riddick hearing from the players who are playing with and against Jayden Daniels so far in practice. So those are big compliments. I told y'all already last week when Zach Ertz had his press conference, he said that he can even tell that Jayden Daniels must be doing a lot of things outside of the actual practice that they have together, on top of the practice that he's already doing really well in and things like that. Because Zach Ertz said that Jayden Daniels always seems to be so prepared every day in practice. Even when Cliff Kingsbury dives deeper into the offense and the playbook, it still seems like Jayden Daniels is already ahead and ready for whatever Cliff Kingsbury is going to throw at him. And remember, this is the same Zach Ertz that's played with a lot of good to great quarterbacks in his career, even most recently with Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts. And he sounded like he was impressed to the point that this was like the first time he's seen a young quarterback that ahead of the offensive coordinator when it comes to installing the offense and things like that. And also, B. Mitch loved what he's seen so far in early offseason practices as well. He said, quote, he has a quick release. He can throw the football. He's kind of a perfectionist. He was doing a drill and he missed one time and it was eating him alive. And I like a person that's not just going to be happy with making mistakes, unquote. And I love that quote. The fact that Jayden Daniels is a perfectionist is big time for me. You can see it in his mechanics and his footwork, his throwing motion, his release and everything. But the fact that he's still going out there and being that same type of guy in practice already, loving it. He's not taking it easy. He's not like, I'm the second overall pick, so this organization is going to be patient with me. No, he wants to be great right now because, again, remember, he's competing against CJ Stroud and remember Malik Neighbors. Remember they had to call off that bet. They had a $10,000 bet on who was going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. The NFL, the No Fun League, that's what it stands for, stepped in and stopped it. I'm pretty sure they still probably have that bet going behind the scenes. They're just not going to talk about it anymore. But either way, he's competing against his own boy, wide receiver from LSU that they played together for the past couple of years, Malik Neighbors, but he's also competing against CJ Stroud, his dog that he basically grew up with back in California. So I love the motivation that Jayden Daniels has behind him. Already, he just wants to be a great quarterback. He wants to lead this franchise to Super Bowls, but everybody will say that. He has extra layers to his motivation, and I love that. And the fact that he's a perfectionist as well. And then I love his personality. I mean, I love it, man. I absolutely love it. Jayden Daniels is my type of guy. He personality-wise. I'm not even going to dive all the way into that, though. And now moving on, let's talk about Adam Peters' changes that he's making, especially in the scouting department. We're going to break this up into two halves as well. Now that we're on the second half of the video, we're going to break this up into like a couple of quadrants here. We're going to talk about who's out, who's leaving, who left, and then who's coming in and who may also be coming in, who we're targeting. So that's how we're going to split up the last half of the video in two more halves to break it all the way down into 2/4. So as far as who's leaving, first of all, most notably is Eric Stokes. They are not renewing the contract of Senior Director of Player Personnel, Eric Stokes. And if y'all can remember, yeah, that draft video, that draft clip from behind the scenes from last year's 2023 draft, when Martin Mayhew turned around and looked at somebody and asked, should we take Forbes or Gonzalez? Stokes said, I say we take Forbes. So that's like the clip that he's most known for. Even though I feel like Eric Stokes has generally done a pretty decent job with the Commanders since he's been here, but that's what he's going to be remembered by the most by Commanders fans, by being one of the main people that said we should take Emmanuel Forbes over Christian Gonzalez. And I mean, I'm really excited about Emmanuel Forbes' potential. I just did a whole video yesterday breaking down how he's not even starting yet, but at the same time, man, I think that he's going to fit so well with this scheme. I think he's going to fall into that Trevon Diggs and Deron Bland like role where he's going to be interception hunting more so than actually being just a great cover corner. I think like the Stephon Gilmore role that they had last year is going to be more so Benjamin St-Juste, Michael Davis, and maybe Stephon Gilmore is still a free agent. Maybe they bring him in as well. You never know. But I think they're going to use Emmanuel Forbes out there to take risk. Either he's going to be having a pick six or he's going to get beat for a first down. That's just the risk and reward that comes with a play style like that. I think he's going to fit perfectly into that because Deron Bland is good, but he was a 5th round pick for a reason. A 5th round pick doesn't set an NFL record for pick sixes in a season and lead the NFL in interceptions by himself. A lot of that, I would argue the majority of that was scheme. I'm definitely expecting him to take a couple of steps back in production from last year going into this upcoming season, just because he lost all of his coaching staff, his defensive coaching staff, and Joe Witt Jr., Dan Quinn, and all of those guys. And who got them? The Commanders. So why can't Emmanuel Forbes step in? Deron Bland was a 5th round pick, and even though Emmanuel Forbes probably shouldn't have been picked over Christian Gonzalez, he was a 1st round pick for a reason. So if they can get that, my point is they can get that greatness out of Deron Bland. Why couldn't they get that greatness out of Emmanuel Forbes? Now I'm done with that tangent. Again, Eric Stokes, the guy that urged Martin Mayhew to take Emmanuel Forbes, that literally told him between Forbes and Christian Gonzalez, take Forbes. They're not renewing that contract. And of course, JP Finley brings up a great point. Front office calendar means changes after the draft. Here is one. Eric is a good dude. He'll probably get picked up quick. And I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody picks up Eric Stokes immediately. But of course, as a Commanders fans, being the guy that wanted Emmanuel Forbes over Christian Gonzalez, that's always not going to necessarily sit well in people's stomachs. But again, what if Emmanuel Forbes goes out there and balls out this season? Then maybe we don't treat Eric Stokes so bad. And even more specifically, going back to Eric Stokes, Nikki Javala tweeted, changes were expected with the new regime. Stokes joined Washington in 2020 as its director of pro scouting and was elevated to his current role in 2021, which he's held since then. But now they're not even necessarily like releasing him or firing him. They're just not renewing the contract. They're just letting it go ahead and end out. So he's gone. And John Keim also warned us of more changes coming when talking about Eric Stokes. It was a pretty cryptic tweet when he said, as Nikki Javala reported, Washington has let go of executive Eric Stokes, source confirms. Will be a couple of other changes, whether coming or going. So basically, heads up, there's probably some more things going down. And just to let you know, this happened all the way back on May 9th. And since then, we've gotten a couple of more updates. And I just wanted to kind of let those pile up before I finally talked about them. I felt like now was the right time because we have a few more people. Some more Commander staff news. Senior Director of Player Development, Malcolm Blacken, will also not be returning to the organization per source. His contract will not be renewed. He has been with the organization over multiple iterations since starting all the way back to 1999. Like, Adam Peters is getting rid of people that were with the Burgundy and Gold since 1999. I wasn't even old enough to understand what football even necessarily was at that point in time. Golly, man. So he's basically been there my whole life, and now he's gone as well. Again, we are completely cleaning house. I wouldn't be surprised if they hire new ball boys and water boys, man, at this point. Also, shouts out to Rich Manuel, because you always know that he's going to come in with some background information. He said Blackens value the rookies as they transition to NFL life, and so the whole roster as they're navigating work-life balances and personal growth was often overlooked by many. Seemed like Doug Williams was always the face of the personnel mentorship, so maybe he takes it officially. And that's a good point. So maybe this Blacken guy was, having more of an impact on our team than people really knew. And then now that Doug Williams, even though he's always been kind of over that whole department, now he's probably going to do more in that department, because Blacken apparently was doing a lot, but just wasn't necessarily getting a lot of public credit that like us Commanders fans would actually be able to notice and acknowledge. And then now moving on, after 15 seasons with the Commanders, David Whittington is headed to the Panthers in an unspecified college scouting role. Well, now we know. I'm going to update y'all on the next tweet, but now he's going to join new GM Dan Morgan. And remember, Dan Morgan was the assistant general manager to the Panthers last year, and after they fired their other general manager, the one from last year, Dan Morgan just got promoted to GM from assistant. And then now he's bringing Dave Whittington to the Panthers from Washington. And he originally joined the Washington Commanders in 2009, holding several roles. So again, Adam Peters isn't just looking at the guys at the top, the guys that get the most camera time, the guys that are most known amongst the fan base. He's digging deep, even to guys that have been around since 1999 and 2009. And just to let you know, he was most recently a national scout for the Commanders, and he is now headed to Carolina to be the Panthers' assistant director of college scouting. That's a big promotion for him. Hey, congratulations to Dave Whittington right there. And then also another guy that just left, with the new GM in town, transition in Washington continues. The latest, Harrison Richard, a Commanders college scout last year, is the new national scout for the Falcons. Another guy leaving the Commanders to go get a promotion. Richard, who initially joined Washington in 2017, worked with Atlanta assistant general manager Kyle Smith during Smith's days in Washington. So there goes that connection. Kyle Smith was definitely looking like, okay, when this guy finally is available, I left the burgundy and gold years ago. Once this guy's finally ready to leave, I'm going to try to scoop him up and bring him with me, because clearly he must be doing some type of good job. Harrison Richard was a college scout who oversaw the Southeast region, so he was over here probably in Georgia, my stomping ground. He was with the Washington Commanders for 6 years, and these are just more changes for GM Adam Peters' scouting department after the draft. And again, this was expected. Teams almost never fire their scouting department guys when the new general manager comes in until after the draft. You don't do it before the draft, you do it afterwards. Adam Peters even said in a couple of press conferences that these guys have put in all this work. Why would I throw all of that work away? I just got here in like early 2024. These guys have been scouting these players dating all the way back to the actual college football season, all the way back in September, in August. Why would I throw all of that away by firing them as soon as I get here? We can wait till after their work is done in the draft. It makes too much sense. So just like I warned y'all that no changes would be made as far as scouts go before the draft, I also warned y'all that does not necessarily mean that there wouldn't be changes after the draft, that these guys were just safe just simply because we didn't fire them as soon as Adam Peters got here. It was really only a matter of time. And then also, Ben Standig brings up a good point and words it in a really good way as well. Staff movement is common following the draft, but it becomes more likely with new people in charge. The hiring of general manager Adam Peters and assistant general manager Lance Newmark in January set the stage for these changes, including movement in the scouting department. So again, it was really just only a matter of time, and I wouldn't be surprised if we try to bring in as many guys that they trust from the 49ers staff from Adam Peters' side and the Lions staff from Lance Newmark's side. But we'll see. So now that takes me to the next part. Who's coming in? We've already had all of these guys leaving. With us letting so many people go to other teams or just letting them walk or whatever, I know y'all are wondering, who are we bringing in to even it out, to take the place of those guys? Well, first up, Jack Quagliarello. I hope that's how you pronounce that name. I'm going to definitely have to spend some time to figure out how to pronounce that correctly. I apologize. But Jack spent last season as the scouting assistant with the 49ers, and now he is following new Commanders general manager Adam Peters to Washington as a pro scout. And Neil Stratton, who is reporting this, said, a true grinder, Jack has done stints with the Jets and the Colts as well as Northwestern and Syracuse and at the Senior Bowl. So this guy's a work, man. He be working. He everywhere that he can help, he will help. He's looking for work. He's looking for something to do. I like that. Jack has spent time as interns with the Jets and the Colts, later spending time on the recruiting staff of Syracuse and Northwestern. And it's crazy too, because my boy Fran Brown just left Georgia to go to Syracuse. I'm pretty sure Fran Brown would have loved to have him, but then he kind of missed him by a year, because by the time Fran Brown went to become the head coach for Syracuse, Jack was already part of the 49ers coaching staff. But I'm pretty sure, just based off of the track record and what I'm hearing about this Jack guy, that and the reason that Adam Peters is even taking him from the 49ers to bring him with him to the Commanders, Fran Brown would have loved to have had him on his recruiting staff. And you know, that's something random that has nothing to do with the Commanders, but as a Georgia Bulldog fan, I'm really rooting for Fran Brown to kill it at Syracuse. So I just felt like I needed to take some time to say that. Last season was his first year as a scouting assistant with the 49ers. He was only there for 1 year. And Hogshaven also goes on to say it will be interesting to see if Peters brings over any other scouting staff from the 49ers and Lance Newmark taps into the Lions scouting staffs for promotional opportunities as well. The reason I wanted to point that out, because again, as you notice, a lot of the guys that left the Commander scouting department went elsewhere for promotion. So if we're bringing somebody here from another staff, again, from the 49ers on the Adam Peters side of thing, or the Lions on that Lance Newmark side of thing, it's more than likely for a promotion. So then I guess we will have to find somebody else to fill in the shoes of what the actual position was that we lost when guys left. We're not just, this guy left to go join Kyle Smith and we're going to bring somebody from the 49ers and the Lions to fill his spot. No, because everybody's looking for a promotion. So it's not just going to be like that much of a lateral movement. I'm really interested in seeing basically who they're going to use to replace those type of guys. But continuing on, Jack completed 1 season with San Francisco under Peters as a scouting assistant after being with the Northwestern's recruiting department last year. And so now again, he only spent 1 season with Adam Peters, and I don't know exactly what he did there, but it must have been enough, because Adam Peters made sure that as soon as he got his general manager job, he brought Jack with him with one of the very first hires that he's ever made to this scouting department. So this Jack guy may be like a nice little up-and-comer. Remember, Adam Peters came up through the scouting community. He was there when the Patriots were winning all of those Super Bowls with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. He was like one of their main scouts. You could probably give him a lot of credit for that. And then he was one of the lead scout, one of the lead draft guys for the Denver Broncos. He's the one that drafted Justin Simmons. He's one of the people that really contributed and helped to build that Super Bowl 50 winning Denver Broncos, who beat my dog Cam Newton. I'm still sick about that. I wish Cam Newton could have gotten a ring before he got up out of here. I was really mad watching. That's probably the angriest I've ever been watching a Super Bowl. I was really mad how they were doing my boy Cam. But he's just, everywhere he's gone, he's had a positive impact and helped teams. I mean, eventually, at the very least, go to Super Bowls. Every organization he's been with, Adam Peters has at least led a team to a Super Bowl, like the 49ers. They just went but didn't win. I mean, they lost in overtime. They almost did. Then he won Super Bowls with the Patriots and the Broncos. This guy, wherever he goes, at the very least, good luck follows him. But my main point is, this guy knows scouting as much as anybody else. That's his background. He's not one of those general managers that came from like a statistics side of things or like maybe a coaching side of things. No, this is just a pure scout, talent evaluator type of guy. So if he likes a guy that much, like a guy like Jack, who he's bringing from the 49ers, there must be something to that. If Adam Peters loves Jack, then I love Jack as well, is my main point. Also, next up, the Washington Commanders front office makeover continues. Washington is targeting Baltimore Ravens director of college scouting, David Blackburn, for a personnel role. Sources familiar to the situation told The Athletic. So that's going to be really interesting, because maybe he's willing to do that lateral movement, because now we have an opening for senior director of player personnel with Eric Stokes, and maybe Ravens director of college scouting David Blackburn will be willing to come over for that role, or maybe the same role there. I'm not exactly sure, but that's really interesting. And just to let you know, Baltimore promoted the up-and-coming Blackburn to director of college scouting in 2022, following 2 years as a national scout. Another scout guy. Adam Peters loves those scout guys. Blackburn joined the Ravens organization in 2007 as a player personnel assistant and spent 7 years years as a West area scout, and he's worked his way up since. And again, a lot of people are wording him as like a up and comer, so maybe this is another gem that Adam Peters is trying to lure over from the Baltimore Ravens. Maybe the Ravens don't understand his value, and Adam Peters is like, all right, man, y'all sleeping. That's a guy that y'all may want to hold on to. Do not let me get a hold of this guy. Y'all let me get a hold of him. It's raps for everybody else's scouting department. He's trying to make the Avengers of the scouting department right now. And then also, there are other people that the Commanders should probably target, according to Ben Standig in his article with The Athletic. He said Lions Senior Director of Football Administration Brandon Sosna and former Eagles VP of Football Administration Jake Rosenberg are potential targets that Washington should target as far as changes, more changes coming to the department. And as far as like, when they're talking about negotiating contracts and salary cap management and things like that, those are the type of guys that will come in for that role if they're looking for that. But of course, we still have more spots to fill in the scouting department, because as you can notice, we talked about a lot more people leaving than more people coming in. So we'll see how that goes. I'll keep y'all updated on that. Of course, again, your one-stop shop for everything Commanders. I'm gonna keep y'all updated on every little thing: practices, hires, scouting department, coaching staff, whatever, free agency signings, anything. I got y'all. And also, remember that Adam Peters already made other moves that I've reported on over the past couple of months. I mean, we already have Martin Mayhew, who was retained, of course, and they go all the way back to their time together with the 49ers, so that's probably why. And it seems like if Martin Mayhew survived those scouting cuts that we just had for the past couple of weeks, seems like he's going to be here at least through this next season. But don't worry, because we killed the draft, we killed free agency, and Martin Mayhew was here while we did it. But that's because Martin Mayhew doesn't have a lot of a voice. But I mean, Adam Peters does trust him, and if Adam Peters trusts you, I have no choice but to. And then also, remember, the Commanders back in April hired Dave Gardy away from the league office to be the team's senior vice president of football initiatives. He held the role of the NFL senior vice president of football operations for 10 years. He was like Roger Goodell's, like one of his right-hand mans. And now he's coming here to help us on the rule side of things, but kind of like in a coaching way. It's crazy. Like Adam Peters and Josh Harris are not playing. They're trying to bring the elite of the elite to do whatever it takes. If you help increase our chances of winning by only a small percentage, we still want you. And I'm pretty sure Dave Gardy is going to have a bigger impact than people realize. Again, going from being Roger Goodell's right hand man. I already talked about this in a whole like 30-minute breakdown of Dave Gardy, but my point is, my main thing was that most people fight to get to the NFL office. A lot of people work for NFL teams like the Commanders, Cowboys, whatever, all 32 teams, in hopes of being able to work for the NFL league office itself. This guy's leaving that league office to come work for us. So he must see something in what we have going here that he really wants to be a part of it. Because the job that he already had with the NFL is most people's goal. And so he left that to join us. I'm just telling y'all, it's just another sign that the Commanders are building something great here. And again, I can't wait to see what they do to fill out the scouting department with all of the guys that we lost, who they're going to bring in to replace them. And of course, I will keep y'all updated on that. If it takes a few weeks, if it takes a few months, just know I will keep y'all updated on that. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned, because I have so much content that I'm excited to get out to y'all. So make sure you stay tuned for the film sessions. I'm still working on my record prediction, because again, I don't want to just give out a number just looking at the schedule and just say something. I want to go each game by game, and we're going to break each game down by matchups: defensive line versus offensive line, receivers versus DBs, and vice versa. Our linebackers and our front seven versus their offensive line and running backs. We're going to look at stats, what they did last year. I'm going to look at key additions for each team as well, because when we're breaking down these teams that we go against in 2024, they are not the same teams from 2023, just like we aren't, even though we had the biggest changes going from 2023 to the 2024 out of the entire NFL. That doesn't mean that other teams didn't have big changes as well. So we're also going to take a look at teams like their key losses, who they lost in free agency, and then who they also gained in free agency and the draft. And so like we're going to do a full dive into literally every matchup on our schedule. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I'm really excited about that video. That's why it's taking so long for me to do it, because it's like extensive research that I'm doing right now. I'm even watching a little bit of tape. I'm like, okay, Like the Steelers drafted my boy Peyton Wilson. How is Peyton Wilson gonna look next to Patrick Queen that just went to the Steelers from the Ravens in free agency? Like, it's things like that. That's not the same Steelers linebacker core from 2023, and I want to make sure I acknowledge that and point that out in my record prediction video. So like the very small details like that. So make sure you just stay tuned. Be patient with me. Hopefully I can get it done by tomorrow. We'll see. But I really appreciate y'all. Make sure I stay tuned for all of that content. Again, I'm keeping y'all updated on all of the Commanders practices that the media have access to. Keep y'all updated on any coaching hires, any free agent signings that we may do. All of that. Really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.